Okay, we start with the question, how do universities organise professional learning around teaching? Is there good modelling of professional learning amongst teacher educators and CPD facilitators and researchers in universities that we can build on? Do we need standards for professional learning in HE supporters of teacher learning to go on then? We thought we needed stronger collaboration between HEIs. I think the government's been very successful in using marketisation to fragment and introduce competition between HEIs. And in a fragmented system, we think that reclaiming, in a positive, visionary way, the research agenda, and particularly the research agenda around professional learning that works for pupil learning, would be a very powerful counter-lever for that. It would reclaim the space, and that would be a very practical thing that we could do. We did think probably that we need standards that recognise the continuing of professional lifelong learning for teachers, right the way through from initial teacher education through to CPD, and to supporting the learning of others. Communication's fragmenting fast. We've all got to work a lot harder about learning what other people are doing. And we were finishing by talking about sharing the learning from masters and PhDs. And also a different point in kind, letting schools know what it is we learn when we're working to support their learning, and being honest and open about that, just as good coaches learn more from learning to coach someone else than the person they're supporting, so there's honesty about that. We also thought we need an impact strategy. We have to understand impact, not in terms of outcomes, but in terms of that sense of being really clear what our students and pupils' learning will look like if our learning is powerful, and that's the kind of impact strategy we thought had the capacity to model the values we're being set for at the beginning of the day while getting some of the work done. Thank you.
We tried to follow the rough agenda that Pauline had set us of covering the local, national and international. We actually started talking mainly about national, then moved to local, and finished with a little splurge on international. But much of our discussion was set in the frame of something like a Royal College of Teaching or teachers. And our first concern was to try as quickly as possible avoid any divide and rule or divide and multiply kind of phenomenon. Bob, I think it was referred to 3 parallel initiatives at the moment, and I think the group felt it's really important to try and consolidate around one development as soon as possible. And we had a bit of discussion about the role of subject associations in contributing to such a national college or Royal College, and also of the teacher unions and mixed views on the wisdom of that. There was a general agreement that the 2 main reasons for the failure of the GTC in England were A, the central imposition of it on teachers, and B, the association of the disciplinary aspect of professional disciplinary aspect of the GTC that had fairly swiftly acquired negative connotations for many teachers. So there was acknowledgement that we still need a disciplinary body in the same way as the GMC is a disciplinary body for doctors. There does need to be something currently being done by the teaching agency, whatever its latest name is. So that the Royal College would be about professionalism, professional knowledge, professional development. Ideas around sort of different possible grades of membership. Was it something that you joined when you, at some point in your career early on, and then could come through different grades of membership, sort of hierarchy, fellowships? Would you need annual updating in the way that some professional bodies do? You put in a portfolio each year of what you've done, and you get kind of re-stamped as being live and active. We had a little bit about the Teacher Development Trust and the work they're doing on a CPD guide and on teacher inquiry networks, and feeling that if we had a well-established Royal College or equivalent, those kinds of functions would be amongst those that the trust, that the college would undertake. That was all kind of at national level. Then we did think about teaching school alliances and the extent to which they may provide a model for this kind of development at the local level, although later in the discussion we pointed out that some of the teaching school alliances are not really local, they may be national, even international in some of their aspirations, but it seems that most of them are at a local level at the moment, and they are to some extent kind of moved into a space that for those of us that are older was once occupied by local authority professional development activities, where there was expertise at local authority level about subjects, about teaching and about schools, and that there's concern that that kind of expertise may have dissipated now. There are in teaching schools and teaching school alliances some roles that may be important, such as research coordinators in the alliances or teaching and learning coordinators. There's a danger, it was suggested, of localism. The negative side of localism is it becomes parochial and less connected with the wider world, but there can be positive aspects of that as well. And just to finish off, we contrasted that kind of local initiative with the convergent tendencies propounded by OECD et al. And felt that for the kind of developments that we were hoping might happen to be sustained and actually connecting internationally, it's important to not to at any point attempt to impose, as it were, English, let alone UK type developments on overseas colleagues, in a dangerous sort of imperialistic tendency in this kind of work. So that's where we got to. And we've got lots of places as well.
Thank you.
Over here, Viv.
Hoping colleagues will help me out. We've got lots of post-its. Most of our conversation was really sharing experiences and knowledge that we had about good practice and issues in professional learning, particularly balancing things like the necessity of securing individual teacher interest at the same time as actually having a wider horizon and across school and across schools, plural, perspective. And getting a balance between inspiration and consolidation, and particularly building on existing opportunities for partnership. What are people already doing? So we were learning from each other about how schools are managing and organising things like inset days. What kind of decision making goes behind that? Opportunities for teachers to gain accreditation, thinking about where the learning takes place and how you can make it more fluid, that experience and learning in one place, perhaps in your classroom in the school, can be actually accredited in another place, in a university that might actually recognise that. And I think one of the things we talked about most was the idea that it's very, very important to create capacity, that all these experiences should have right at the heart of them from the beginning the idea that individual learning is about creating capacity to support others in their learning. And that this should be essential right from the start. We all know that dissemination has to be planned from the outset, but to what extent is it integral to professional learning experiences, that your learning will help you to support other people's learning? It's sometimes assumed that you'll be able to, but is it explicitly addressed? Are there strategies in place for how do you share your learning? How can you be a change agent? What kind of issues might you confront front as a change agent. I mean, there is historically a lot of research about this. There was the RAND study from way back when. But do we actually build into these learning experiences, balancing the point that Nicole Mockler made in the Australian project, that to be involved in this, you've got to do things that feed everybody. Everybody's got to be nurtured by it, but at the same time, how do you actually build capacity? And that's not something that's going to happen automatically. It needs to be thought about. So we were looking at existing practice. We shared a lot of good things that are happening, but maybe the gap that we identified was the explicit recognition of how do you support people in supporting other people to learn, and middle managers, I think, as a missed opportunity for actually developing.
Thanks, Viv.
Well, I'm not going to repeat things that were already said that we've had today, sharing practice, the National College. I think maybe three things that you were mentioning was what contribution would very visible, high quality CPD make to raising the status of teaching? How can local communities become aware of the quality of the Secondly, we do think that groups of schools working together is a very important growth model, whether they've been these forced marriages or voluntary marriages or whatever it is, that appears to be in the more interesting schools, the way in which they're taking the place of the LA role in relation to this. And Jam, particularly given her really interesting, demanding job, did give us a cautionary tale about not being too negative about some of the things going on. Because you pointed us to growth points in schools where the psychology of the schools was changing in relation to some aspects of CPD. And we mustn't be blind to those things.
I'd like to thank everybody today. It's been, for me anyway, an extremely rich. Suddenly feel really tired, which means I think I've worked very, very hard. And I want to thank you for helping me to do that, really. It has fulfilled my hopes for this day. And as a starter to the seminar, I think it's been very, very good. And it's all been about the contributions you've made. So thank you very, very much. Let me just tell you what we'll do with this. Heather will do her whizzy thing, and it will end up with access, open access, as a web page. With permission, and I will check that out from colleagues, I'll put up the PowerPoints as well, and the papers. I'll check those all out before they go up. And I will try and turn some of what we've done here into notes. Notes under headings, just so people have some sort of record of what we've got and what we're using. Again, just two reminders, quite key. If you want to be on the list for the next one, to let Philippa know, and we can do that through the email addresses you've been using to communicate with us. And if you want to put down for two at once, then let me know, and we'll just pass it on to Ros for the next one. Just on some minor technical matters, does anybody need taxis? Do we need to order some taxis? No, everybody's fine. Okay. Well, I thank you very, very much. It's been a really good mix. Thank you very, very much. It's been a great venue. And I wish you a less complicated journey home, some of you, than you had coming. Thank you very much.
Thanks very much, colleagues.